Liam Fennessy of the pod on Lansdowne. This is definitely the first recording of this here on the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. Liam, before we get going about the offseason, hear me out here. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Roberto Pedagini. Is that evoking anything? Is that bringing anything back?
No, I'm sorry. Should I know?
All right. How about this? Joe Thurston.
Yes. Yeah, I can get behind some Joe
Yes.
Thurston.
Yes.
Hell
Gets
yeah.
in there. Roberto Pedagini fascinates me because he basically lost his spot when he had signed with the Mets because they had John Olerud. And then he came to the Red Sox as like a 35-year-old and got to play some games because John Olerud got hurt. It's like such a fucking weird like connection there. All right. I'll take that as a win. Roberto Pedagini, man. That's big time. Boy, do I have some old school Red Sox questions for you later. I thought about the Manny Del Carmen route, but everyone knows Manny Del Carmen.
Yeah, that's an easy one. When they're a champ, it's tough.
With their champ, local champ.
That's right.
But Liam, you obviously do the pod on Lansdowne with a couple of your buddies. It's available on Apple Podcasts through Over the Monster, Inside the Monster. I always get those mixed up.
Yeah, it's so technically it used to be Over the Monster, but the podcast network itself is Monsters of Socks.
That's it. That's it. I just search it and I get there.
It's extremely confusing. Yeah, but we're under Monsters of Socks wherever you find your podcasts.
Oh, this is off to a great start. Obviously, Liam, we had some big time moves this week. Finally, the Red Sox making some moves. And before we get to that pressing question too, Liam Fennessy, Irish?
Just a little bit.
You don't say.
How could you tell?
You don't say. But the Red Sox get Garrett Crochet on Wednesday. It was not exactly what we were expecting right away. 3 big-time free agent starters on the market. Everyone's saying they're going to get 2. 2 of them are gone, and so they trade for Garrett Crochet. Let's look at this in a vacuum, outside of the things that did not happen, the guys they did not sign or have not signed. Thoughts on the Garrett Crochet trade, because you've come around a little bit.
I definitely have. I am fully on board the Garrett Crochet train at this point, I got to say. First initial reaction when I saw the return, I'll be honest, I was like, wow, this feels a little steep. But I mean, I think if you're looking at it in a vacuum, you didn't give up any major league talent. You still have Abreu. Costas is still around, thank God. You traded from a position of strength with Montgomery, an outfielder. The outfield's already crowded. So I look at it, it's obviously hurts to give up Teal. I absolutely love the idea of a franchise catcher. And I think he will be a really solid major league player. But I was talking to Fitz and Jake about this on our own show the other night, where it's like, when you look at guys like Meyer, Anthony Campbell, and Teal, the first 3 all have really high ceilings, whereas Teal has a really high floor. Like, you know, the glove is going to be good behind the plate. And it's really kind of like, all right, if you get a really good major league bat after the fact, that's gravy. Whereas with the other 3, it already seems, obviously prospects are never a sure thing, but with their bats and their mechanics and everything, it feels like the transition for them, especially, I mean, catching to begin with is an insanely hard position. So
yeah, and it's kind of a tough one to fast track too, right? He gets to Worcester last year, and you figure if he's still here, he's going to be a part of the 40 this year and probably be part of the team. But that's a tough one to just fast track through. They did that kind of with Swihart, and there were some other problems with Swihart, but it's tough to just say, all right, man, it's June. We really need a catcher. You're our everyday guy.
And I think like it's part of the league itself too, like the landscape of the catching position. It's like feel for the most part, there's 3 or 4 guys that you can really say like, oh, that's a franchise catcher behind the plate, a guy like Adley or a guy like Alvarez, et cetera. Names like that where you're like, all right, that's a bat and a glove behind the dish. Those guys are insanely hard to find. So, I mean, if Teal ends up being a guy like that, congratulations to the White Sox. Whereas where the Red Sox currently stand, yes, you have a guy in Wong that can play 90 to 100 games back there. Whether or not we're sold on his defense is another conversation. But I just think the catching position at the major league level right now is not it's not to say it's not a priority, but it's a place where you can kind of say, well, if we have someone strong defensively back there, I can sleep at night because the rest of the lineup should still be steady.
Plenty of other teams are getting away with it.
Yes.
Plenty of other contending teams are getting away with it. Honestly, whomever they do bring in, because they will need to bring in a catcher at some point here, I just want to know their record at Dollar Trees, man. That's, I think, first and foremost.
Most importantly, we need to know if there were any off-field incidents.
Speaking of that, this is going to be a good transition here as we talk about Garrett Crochet, because I'll let you in on a little something, a little personal story. I've just moved from Texas to Chicago. And in Texas, I needed a VPN to get to the best porn sites. In Chicago, I don't. But now I don't even think I need it because I looked at Garrett Crochet's Baseball Savant page, and I am totally aroused, man.
That's all you need, all that red, man.
Lou called him a pig because he was so nasty on your show.
Yes,
and
yes.
I mean, he kind of is. That red is unbelievable.
I think the arm itself is absolutely electric. And I hate to use that word. It feels overused at this point. But this is the only other way I can really put it. High 90s fastball. I think the only other two left-handed starters in baseball last year that hit 100 on their four seam was Reagans and Skubal. Like, that's some seriously good company to be in. Yeah. That's some good company. So I think really the only worry, and I think you've heard people talk about it ad nauseum already, is just like the workload. You're kind of like, where's the resume? Like, we saw obviously insane flashes in the first half from him last year. And then by the time the White Sox were doing what they do on that historic pace midway through the year, they're like, all right, we're going to kind of reel those innings in, preserve the arm, which I think is a very easy spin zone to make, where you can say, look, this arm has an insanely high ceiling. There's so much potential there with this guy, and there's not a lot of miles on the arm. So to me, you can say,
look at it.
Yeah, it's like you can say, okay, we only have 2 years of control. You gave up 2 of your top 5 prospects for a guy that's only thrown 219 innings at the major league level. But at the same time, the flashes he's shown, especially even as a starter last year, obviously, is what we're really looking at. Kind of like it's easy to go from one end of the spectrum to the other real fast. And that's kind of where I've been, where obviously I would have rather paid money as opposed to paying prospects. But when it came down to it, this rotation needs a top end starter to begin with. Yeah. The fact that he's a lefty is huge also, because since we lost, Rodriguez a couple years ago, they haven't had that big lefty in the rotation, unless you want to consider Rich Hill your big lefty.
I'd like to, if that's okay. I would like to consider him my big lefty. But so, all right. So there's been comparisons to the Sale deal, and obviously that's way different from what you just talked about in terms of the experience. Like, Sale was already a Cy Young caliber guy.
Giving you 200 innings, etc.
No doubt. Like, that everyone knew was the ace. But there is something interesting that I find about this that is kind of similar. And when you remember, like, the last couple of months of Sale in Chicago, like, he wasn't striking as many guys out, and people were like, oh, this is weird. And it was really just him kind of pitching rather than striking guys out.
Rather than throwing, yeah.
Yeah, and now you've got a guy in Crochet who, again, gets babied the second half of the season. And I know they were even talking about deals at the trade deadline with him. But he also incorporates a new pitch, which you've heard from every pitcher ever. It sounds like the most impossible thing to do at the major league level is incorporate a new pitch. And he starts incorporating a sinker in the back half of the season, and it plays pretty well. Doesn't throw a lot of it, but hey, it's another example of, like, guys learning some things. He's still young in his major league career. Like, I see this guy as an ace going forward. And to your point, they brought somebody in, and I wish it were money too. And there's still the opportunity to do that. Corbin Burns is the one of the 3 that's still available, one of those 3 big-time starters. He's got all kinds of Bay Area and West Coast connections, and the Giants are definitely still in on him. So as for everything that's gone on, not only this offseason, but the last 4 or 5, do you have any confidence that they're going to be able to bring in Corbin Burns?
I would say this. The fact that they were willing to get to that $700 million threshold for Soto, at the very least, gives me confidence that they are willing to open up the wallet in the quote unquote right deal. Obviously, you missed out on Fried basically just because you didn't want to give him the 8th year, which I understand. I mean, if I'm Max Fried, I'm still taking the Yankees deal, regardless of what teams are offering it. So I think there's still so much payroll flexibility that they can play with. It just, to me, it wouldn't make sense to not put a $280 million offer out there on the table for Burns, which I think at the very end, he is going to end up getting $300 million just based on the deals that are being tossed out, what Snell got, what Fried got. I think he's a $300 million man. So just based on the workload, and I mean, that dude's an absolute horse. Like, if anyone's a lock for 200 innings, it's Corbin Burns. And we have been so desperate for innings eaters. And like, we're throwing anybody out there. We're throwing anybody out there these last 2 years. So if someone can come in and you can almost kind of say, here's 100 innings, 180, here's 190 innings. That's huge for this team. Like, top to bottom, it trickles down. It goes all the way to the bullpen guys too. You know, like, I think between him, Crochet, and Houck, that'd be a nasty 3-headed monster.
Pigs.
Yes, pig
and
pen.
That's good. That's really good. The pig pen. Wow, that could be really good.
Print the shirts.
Honestly, make sure you get that trademark or something. Can you talk to a lawyer when we get off here? And all it costs you for Burns is money, which, like, finally the Red Sox have. And I don't know about you, but I feel like if they do miss out on him, which is a real possibility, and they end up trading for one of these Seattle starters, fine in terms of what you're getting, but you're probably giving up one of those guys you were happy to not give up in the Chicago deal, whether it be an Abreu or a Casas on your major league roster, or God forbid, someone like a Campbell or a Meyer down there in the minors. It, again, wouldn't be bad in terms of what you're getting back, whether it be Kirby or Gilbert, but it's that mindset of, like, you could have went out and bought guys. You've spent 6 years since Dombrowski left rebuilding your farm system. We don't want to kind of wash away half of it or more in one offseason just to get 2 pitchers because you can't develop any.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. And I think it's tough to sit here and say, like, the Dombrowski years are almost sort of mirroring the position we're in right now, because it feels extremely similar. So it's hard not to, and it's still so recent. But you look at it and you're like, the first winter Dombrowski comes in, he trades Manny Margot from a position of strength for Craig Kimbrell right off the bat. He goes out and he signs David Price to a record-setting deal. Like, I just think you're going to have to do both. I think if you're relying on trades, it's not going to add up in the end if you all of a sudden you're like, the farm's empty, or like you said, you've traded what we know are real major league players now in Casas and Abreu. To me, it needs to be both. Like, there needs to be a balance. And I think if there is a major second trade, I for better or worse, it is going to hurt at the end of the day.
And it is, like, you are in a good position here in terms of this winter, having 3 legit top end, almost Cy Young guys, 2 guys who have won the Cy Young out there on the market. Like that, you just don't know what that, I mean, they know what it is next year. I don't know what it is next year or year to year. Like, you don't know that you're going to get that many premium options. So I think that's big, which of course leads me to a burning question of, do you think Alfredo Aceves can still be a starter?
100%. Any guy that
he's got 3 pitches. He's got 3 pitches, Liam.
Any guy that wears the number 90 or above, I think they can suit up any day.
Aceves and Spencer Strider, man. What is the difference? Like, literally tell me what's the difference. Joe Biden.
Same guy. Same person.
Also, you live right near Fenway.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, you can practically see it. You've seen some
like I'm right off Kenmore Square. Yeah, it's great.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever look out at the old ball yard and use this pickup line on it? Do you ever say, "Are you related to me? Because you're the only Fen I see."
Whoa. You're
Look,
blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind with that right now.
not just a sports guy. All right. All right. Chick guy. And
I'm gonna have to
line
break
guy.
that out. I'm gonna have to steal that.
Please.
You can have the pig pen trademark. I'll take the trademark for that. We'll make a deal.
And for those of you watching, yes, I do have 2 armed gunmen right outside on the other side of Liam's computer, making sure he does this interview for me. Corbin Burns is obvious that I think that's who most fans want to get. I don't think there's as much hype with the Sasaki thing as it was with some of the other Japanese pitchers in the past, including Yamamoto last year. But if it came down to it, Liam, if it came down to FSG paying Corbin Burns or Mohamed Salah, which one would you have to choose?
Ooh.
One seems pretty close, by the way.
I mean, I hate to say it, especially when we're talking Sox.
I'll do it.
It's got to be Mo, man. Like the team falls apart without him. They really do. They really do. Like they are so reliant on that man. It drives me nuts when Nunez doesn't show up.
I'm about giving up on Darwin, by the way. It's sad.
I'm so
train,
close.
Man.
I know. I just haven't seen it this year.
Last year, even with all the offsides, he was still creating stuff, and his chaos was creating. I don't know if it has the same effect with Arne Slot.
with Slot, where it's like we're holding.
Yes, actually hold on to the ball, Darwin, and stay onside if you could. Yes. I think that would be great. Anyway, yeah, I think I'd have to pick Mo. If Corbin Burns can do this in 2 years from now, maybe I'll eat my words at 32, the way Mo is. But he's still the fucking best, man. He's still awesome.
He's like, dude. I every time I watch him now, I'm kind of like, I feel like I have to savor it. I'm like, this is like genuinely like one of the greatest of all time. Like Premier League, Champions League.
Yeah, like he might be the 3rd best player in the history of that club, which is 130 years old.
It's nuts. So
and he's one of the best in the Premier League ever.
If they don't get it done, I mean, John Henry's he's already got Red Sox fans on edge. And he's like Liverpool fans will actually do something about it if he doesn't pull through with him or Trent or Virgil.
Yes, because Trent's now the one. Maybe I should have asked about Trent because it looks like the Virgil Mo thing is going to be settled here. But Trent, I don't know, man. That's I
think he's hitting Madrid. I really do.
Dude,
yeah,
no.
I hate to say it.
I mean, I friggin' hope not, dude. I hope not. But I mean, God love him. FSG's ruining the Penguins right now. One of maybe the best hockey franchise the last 25 years, just ruining them. I do want one more question before we get you out of this. In terms of this Red Sox offseason, we've seen it a bunch on Twitter, X, with the Family Guy edits. If you could put a Family Guy moment to this Red Sox offseason, what would it be? This is really on the spot, by the way.
I'm happy you asked me this post crochet trade, so I can use the pig analogy. I'm trying to think of like what it is exactly. They must have been at like a state fair, and there's a genetically altered pig that either punches Stewie or Brian in the face and then just says oink. And that's exactly what I would use.
Yes. They say, does he have fists?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes. I've been thinking about that since the moment they traded for him. I was like,
before they did that, when you're searching for a pig, it could have been that great when Peter's hanging out with Bill Clinton and they see like they pull up by a farm and he's like, that pig could be in our mouth in like 20 minutes. That's
so good,
bro. Oh man, Liam Fennessy, pod on Lansdowne. You guys did an emergency pod this week. When is the next one gonna drop? Plug away.
Yeah, so we drop episodes. The offseason is a little weird. We'll have one coming out next Wednesday, and then obviously week of Christmas, New Year's will be off. And then leading up to spring training, like post New Year's, will be pretty much every other week, unless something else major happens and we need another emergency pod. But you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Pod on Lansdowne, myself on X or Twitter at Liam Fennessy _. My two beautiful co-hosts.
By the way, great Red Sox Twitter account. All three of you guys, genuinely. But Fennessy might have the best Red Sox Twitter account out there. It's plenty of bangers.
That.
If I have had to like stop myself from liking too many tweets so that you won't think I'm a fucking weirdo. As if this didn't.
It'll go straight to my head. So you're good. You're good to do that. Yeah.
Hell yeah. But Fitzimo Pena and Jake.
Yes. And Jake Wallinger.
Yeah.
Yes. You can follow them all.
Follow, man. That's
Collect
great stuff. It's we're gonna fall for it again. And I can't wait.
Yeah, well, Cam, before I hop off, one question for you. What
please.
Do you think is the next shoe to drop for Craig and the boys?
Oh, Craig.
Is it a bat or is it a pitcher? I won't make you name names, but
I kind of hope it's a bat. And to be honest, I hope it's Teoscar Hernandez. Like, again, we said the same thing about the pitching. It's just all it costs you is money. And to be honest, I mean, outside now that you've got one, hopefully front end starting pitcher, like that's what you needed, right-handed bat. Some balance in that lineup. He's a guy who wanted to come here last year. Like, come on, dude. Like, let's just make that happen. Did you want to shout out? I got Joe Thurston and Roberto Pedagini out there. Is there anyone you want to shout out before we go?
Let me shout out, for whatever reason I've been thinking about him a lot lately. I'm going to shout out Yamaika Navarro.
Oh, nice.
I think I'm going to shout out Joey Gathright. Or Gathright. I'm trying to remember how it's pronounced.
Gathright, yeah.
Yeah, Gathright. He had like 2 little cameos in the late 2000s. Just a base stealer, you know? Need those guys. Need them.
Dude, this is just the group chat brought to life, man. If I had a nickel for every time I just got baked off an edible and just started sending like Ryan LeVarn way. Like David Pauly, throw him in there. Fucking Rudy Cianez. Like, I'm wasting all the good ones here. Liam, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Hope to have you on in the future.
Whenever you want.
Don't tempt me with that. Don't tempt me with that.
I'm always open.
This is going to send you into the weekend. Be sure to like and subscribe. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we're live on YouTube, high noon Eastern, every weekday here on the Rogue Media Sports Network. And we will see you Monday on The Cam Show.
We are Rogue Media Sports.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. And if you like this video, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a ton. You can follow me on Twitter here for some more outrageous Boston sports takes coming to you every weekday at noon Eastern time. And then after that, wherever you get your podcasts.
We are Rogue Media Sports.